Welcome, all of you musical journeymen, you sonic seekers, and you oral adventurers, to Prismatic Prog Reviews presents a comprehensive discography review of beloved 70s rock band Pink Floyd. Unfortunately, I am by myself today because the rest of my band, Steve and Doug, have decided that their commitment to their church's band this morning is a little more important than the project that we have together here. But you know what? That's okay. So let's begin. And what better album to start with than the one that everyone doesn't like? We have the final cut, Pink Floyd's oft-maligned 1983 album. I'll start with the positives. This has many cinematic moments and incredible sound effects. It really feels like you're in a grimy garage or something. You can hear the garage door opening and closing all around you. It's incredible. There's also some great saxophone work on this album. Some good brass. I did like that. But sadly, this album as a whole is terrible. First of all, on my copy, there was no language warning, and my son unfortunately learned the F word from the song Not Now John. He was already reprimanded once by his kindergarten teacher for saying beep all that, thanks to this song. And now his teacher probably thinks I listen to rap music. I tried to explain to her that no, it was from Pink Floyd, but it fell on deaf ears and he still got in trouble for it. So thank you, Roger Waters, so much for that. Also, just like all the other Pink Floyd albums, it's quite boring and plodding. It's depressing, whining about war or some other niche issue. And my last critique is that this is not really their final album. This is not their last album. They clearly continued after this.
Oh, excellent.
Nice one. Whoop. Whoop.
1.5 prisms. That's right. I wasn't a big fan. And sadly, unfortunately, that means we have to blow this album sky high. And next up, we have Pink Floyd's The Wall. This is the one everyone likes, which is weird because it's a lot like the one everyone doesn't like, which is the final cut. The Wall is a concept album about a depressed rock star and all the different things in his life that he is sad about, like his mom and his girlfriend and his dad in the war. You know, everyone says Pink Floyd is progressive rock, but I'll tell you what, Ziggy Stardust went on a journey. He came from outer space. He did all kinds of stuff. And no one really calls David Bowie progressive, but Pink Floyd, oh, they're a progressive rock band. Why? Because they write about a depressed guy? Anyway, I did enjoy the track The Trial near the end of the album. Unfortunately, my son was watching the movie with me, and that song is sung by a giant butt, where the butt flaps open and close, and it sings the song to you. I don't think that's appropriate. I am also a bit bothered that the catchiest part of the album is We Don't Need No Education. Listen, I know these guys grew up in a poor orphanage in London. I know their educators hit them with rulers or whips or whatever, but this is not how it is in my country. And in fact, in my country, we suffer from a lack of education. We do need, yes, education is the message that they should be sending. Obviously, for a band that pronounces charade wrong, they could use the education. My last critique is that in the film, there was a fascinating animated sequence called Empty Spaces, which I think would have been the best song on the album, but for some reason they cut it from the album. What were they thinking?
Oh, that's nice.
Nice one.
Oh, that hurt.
1.5 prisms for The Wall. Unfortunately, that means we have to blow it sky high. Next up is the album Meddle from 1971. And Meddle gets the automatic 0.5 prism bonus for having a long, epic side-long track. That's right, Echoes is quite the masterpiece. Unfortunately though, I'm going to have to deduct that 0.5 prisms because I believe that Echoes basically invented the worst genre in music, post-rock. That's right, post-rock is like progressive rock, but really boring and with no flavor. But on the other hand, you can't really blame Pink Floyd for inventing post-rock, which came a few decades later. And because we believe in ethics and fairness here on this channel, I will restore that 0.5 prisms back again for Echoes. I will also add another 0.5 points for One of These Days, which is another great tune, and if they had expanded that tune and made that another sidelong track, we might be looking at a great album. But unfortunately, the rest of the album is either a dog yelping or just very boring. So let's see what we're gonna rate this.
Not bad. Not bad.
Nice one.
That's right, 2.5 prisms. And you'll be happy to know that this album has escaped being blown up. 2.5 is a neutral score. That means it's an okay album. Sorry for the interruption, folks, but my band members decided to drop in. Better late than never.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. There was this little old lady. She had a flat tire, so me and Doug
Hey,
pulled
don't
over.
worry about it. I'm just happy you showed up. Anyway, we're recording now, so let's get on with the show.
Before we get started, what's up with this leak up here? You know, I used to be a roofer.
Steve, I have a bucket right there. It'll be okay. Okay, let's begin.
Hello.
Doug, I know you're having fun with your new toy, but try to only trigger those sound effects when appropriate. Alright, if we're all done with our interruptions, let's continue. Next, we have Atom Heart Mother from 1970.
Pete, can we jam a little bit while you're doing this?
Yeah, go ahead. Anyway, Atom Heart Mother, 1970. The centerpiece of this album is the 24-minute side-long epic Atom Heart Mother. That's an automatic half prism, though I wish it were a little more coherent. This song is the audio version of a child improvising a story.
First, there was a fireman, and he was playing on a drum, and then he ate a sandwich, and then there was a dinosaur, and the dinosaur played a trombone, and the trombone exploded.
And as critical as I just sounded, I actually enjoyed that approach, and I wish they took it more. The choir and the brass parts were interesting, and a diversion from their normal soft rock psychedelia. And unfortunately, everything else on this album is kind of a snooze. There's also a longer song that ends the album called Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast, but it's kind of a fake epic. It's just a bunch of sound effects with some smooth instrumental rock.
Oh, not bad. Oh, excellent.
Ooh, that hurt.
And there we have our official prismatic rating of 3 prisms, our highest rated Pink Floyd album so far. You've seen it on the t-shirts. You've seen it on the bumper stickers. It's the dark side of the moon. With a channel as cerebral and discerning as my own, you may not be surprised to hear that I'm not the greatest fan of this album. Yes, it has pristine recording quality, and it does have its moments, with Eclipse being a wonderful ending to the record. This album, however conceptual you may claim it is 2 parts soft rock balladry and 1 part filler and sound effects. I don't want to be contrarian here, but I've gotta say, speak to me, drunk British people and heartbeat sound effects. Filler. On the run. Meandering synthesizer sequences. And more sound effects. Filler. Great Gig in the Sky. It's just a lady screaming. That's not gospel. She's a white lady and she's just yelling over a boring progression. It's filler. Any color you like. Come on, folks. It's filler. We've got 4 tracks of filler, and the rest of them soft rock. Okay, Money, it's in 7/4. Ooh, 7/4. This is the one everyone brings up when you talk about odd time signatures, but it's so slow and so awkward. It's really just soft bluesy rock with a quarter note chopped off and a bunch of sound effects. Bump that up to 7/8 and then we can talk, okay guys? There you have it, Dark Side of the Moon. Let's calculate that Prism rating.
Very good. Not bad.
Ooh, that hurt.
Yeah, 1.5 prisms. That means, unfortunately, that we have to blow this album sky high.
Hey, Pete, I've got a review for this one.
Of course. Go right ahead, Steve.
All right, The Dark Side of the Moon, one of the greatest albums of all time. 5 out of 5 stars.
Steve?
I'm sorry?
This is Prismatic Prog Review. We use a prism system. No stars, no percentages. We rate using prisms.
All right. Sorry, Pete. The Dark Side of the Moon gets 5 prisms out of 5 prisms. By the way, I just realized I left my car window rolled down and it is just pouring down out there. Do you mind if we pause real quick and I can go roll it up?
Of course. Just after this next review, though, okay?
All right, make it quick.
And next up, we have Pink Floyd's 1977 album, Animals. This album has 3 long tracks. At 0.5 prisms per track, that's a bonus automatic 1.5 prisms for this album. But unfortunately, the album is brought down by a few things. First, the infantile animal theme. Every track is about some kind of petting zoo animal. Pigs, dogs, sheep, goats, punctuated by animal sound effects everywhere. Folks, let me tell you, when I put on one of these albums, I want them to take me to Atlantis, take me to a crypt, take me to a castle, take me to an alien moon, take me to a prison planet, but don't take me to the petting zoo. And unfortunately, these long songs, long though they may be, are still slow and still plodding and still basically soft rock ballads in that Pink Floyd style. Quite depressing for being a petting zoo. I did enjoy a few of the synthesizer sounds, particularly on Sheep. However, there is one glaring error that I cannot forgive. They mispronounce the word charade. They say charade. Now listen, I don't want to be too hard on these guys. They were all raised in England, probably in an orphanage where they ate gruel and were smacked around all day for minor transgressions. I've seen the documentaries. But they could have asked an educated person if they weren't sure. This is an album that reaches millions of ears, potentially. That you gotta make sure about these things. So what will I rate Pink Floyd's Animals?
Very good. All right.
Whoop.
That's right, folks. 3 prisms. We will not be blowing this album sky high.
All right, that was good. If it's okay with you, Pete, I'm going to go out there and roll up
And next up, we have Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. This album already starts off stronger than the mediocre Dark Side of the Moon with the epic track Shine On, You Crazy Diamond. Shine On is a 26-minute track split into 2 parts. Each part is about 13 minutes, and they bookend the album. And while I enjoyed that first half, that first 13 minutes, when I got to the end of the album to the second half, it became clear that it was just the same track again. Great trick, guys. Now, this may be speculation on my part, but what I think happened was they recorded 31 minutes of music and then realized, that's not really a full album. So they played their long song again with minor changes, and they made a weird fade in and boom, now you have a 44-minute album. You know, that's not speculation. That sounds like probably what happened. I also have to subtract half of a prism because of the track Have a Cigar, which is basically the track Money from the last album, about how it's bad to make money, which is quite ironic given how successful this band is. Doesn't hold up so well now, does it? Also, it's not in 7/4 like Money, so it doesn't even have that going for it. Now, I will add a half prism for the great synths and sound effects on this album, and another half prism for the track Welcome to the Machine, which I thought was this album's saving grace. And so, what does Wish You Were Here get?
Very good. Alright.
Whoop.
That's right, 2.5 prisms, which means I will not blow it sky high.
Now, Pete, I really need to get out there and roll up my windows.
Well, I've got good news for you, Steve. The rain has stopped. Now, you got a review of this album?
Well, alright. Wish You Were Here. Wish You Were Here is another amazing classic from Pink Floyd. This guy just blew everyone away with Dark Side of the Moon, and everyone is wondering, how's he gonna top that? And here's the answer. He came back with an amazing record. Amazing guitar, amazing keyboard atmospheres. Every song is a classic. 5 out of 5.
Please.
Doug, come on, man.
I think Doug wants to review the album too.
I like it.
Okay, let's continue. And here we are, folks, with Pink Floyd's The Division Bell. This is the last album in my Pink Floyd discography review. What's that you say? There are more Pink Floyd albums? Not for me, there aren't. They're not worth reviewing. They'd all get, at most, maybe one prism. So, Pink Floyd's The Division Bell, released in 1994. Had they been an honest band, they would have called this the final cut. And while I will be subtracting a half prism because this album is not so adventurous, it's full of soft rock ballads, these are some of their better, more uplifting, and more interesting soft rock ballads. What Do You Want From Me? Wearing the Inside Out, Coming Back to Life, High Hopes. This album is just full of great tunes. I'll also give this album a half prism because they brought Stephen Hawking into the studio for a cameo on the track Keep Talking, an incredible crossover. The man was leagues ahead of them in brain power, and the decision alone lends this album an air of cerebral intelligence that sadly the rest of Pink Floyd's discography is missing. Unfortunately, I will have to deduct half of a prism because he doesn't sing. Sure, he has a computer voice, but computers can do anything. They can re-pitch the notes. Auto-tune was in its infancy in 1994. They could have used that. They could have used MIDI signals. Make him sing. Let him sing. Let Stephen Hawking sing. That could have been his last chance to sing a song. Instead, they just have him talking. A wasted opportunity there for some Stephen Hawking vocals, and unfortunately, I have to knock off another half prism because this album is just rife with bluesy guitar noodling. Blues is okay in small amounts, but how about throw in some classical guitar? How about some gypsy jazz? How about some jazz fusion guitar? How about a little, I'm not a big Neil Morse fan. You might say I don't like Neil Morse at all. However, sometimes he even introduces some flamenco guitar. He changes it up a little bit. But Pink Floyd, they're stuck in the blues world. Who wants to hear blues? We're sick of blues. Now, Steve, this does not mean that I like Neil Morse, but I can give him props for changing it up a little bit. Unlike Pink Floyd, who seem to be stuck in one mode. So, where does that leave us for Pink Floyd's true final album?
Not bad, not bad.
That's right, 2 prisms, folks. And unfortunately, that means we have to blow this album sky high.
Well, Pete, I disagree with you. For me, Pink's guitar is perfect, and he doesn't just play the blues on that album. I saw High Hopes. During that Pulse tour, I was there in the crowd, and I knew it was an instant classic. This would be a 5 out of 5 prisms for me, but I will say I disagree with Stephen Hawkins' worldview. So I will minus half a prism for that. 4.5 prisms for me. Good album.
I'd like to remind everyone that Steve's reviews are unofficial. However, he is welcome to give his opinion. You as well, Doug.
Thank you.
That's cool.
And now, it's time to find out just how prog Pink Floyd's discography really is. Dark Side of the Moon, 27% prog. Meddle, 50% prog. Atom Heart Mother, 44% prog. Animals, 35% prog, in spite of the many long tracks. The Final Cut, 13% prog. The Wall, 17% prog. Wish You Were Here, 32% prog. And finally, The Division Bell, 10% prog. Final results. And there you have it in first place. Meddle is the most proggy Pink Floyd album of all time. And I'll see you all next time on Prismatic Prog Reviews.
Bye-bye. By the way, Pete, my wife said she would be willing to sing backup or even lead vocals in our band. Just let her know.